Thank you. Okay, we are live. Good morning and welcome. I guess you're going to give us an overview on the Interstate 89 bike and ped overpass. Is that correct?
Sure, happy to. For the record,
so tell us a little something about the project.
Great. Would you like a presentation?
Yes.
Great. I will share my screen. If I could share my screen, then I'll bring up a presentation.
You need to.
She's cohorts. She's cohorts now.
Okay.
Bridge is yet to be named, so we get to choose a name today on what you want to do on this bridge.
Right.
Great.
Are you able to see my presentation now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, terrific. And it's the actual presentation screen as opposed to the background.
It's not the full, we can see your notes in your next slide.
You can or cannot.
We can.
We're seeing your presenter view. You might want to share your other screen.
Okay.
Keep the volume on Zoom device, Mike.
Here we are.
Yeah.
There we go.
That's good.
Okay, good. All right, great. So this overview sort of shows exit 14 and the south side of exit 14, which is where the east-west crossing walk bike bridge will be located. This is a project that has been on our official map since the 90s, and we have tried or had tried for many years to receive federal funding. It's also in our tax increment financing district. And really the TIF district was the trigger that allowed us to really look for federal funding for this project. It is a huge project. And so even the match that would be required for a federal fund is millions and millions of dollars. So we really needed the TIF district in order to move it forward. And it has been studied many times. We went through several scoping studies in 2018 and 2019 with CCRPC in order to understand where the alignment would be and what form the overall project would take in order to better move pedestrians and bicycles through this corridor. And so I just want to tell you a little bit about our project team. We are working very, very closely with the State Agency of Transportation. They have a separate pot of money to assist municipalities. And so they're really helping us through the federal process. We have two members from the Municipal Assistance Bureau, Andy DeForge and Pete Pochop, who are both attending all team meetings and really ensuring that this project stays on track, because we were successful in receiving federal funding through a RAISE grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation. It's actually a grant that the Secretary awards. And then the sub-administrator is the Federal Highway Administration. So the local Vermont office is also part of administering the grant and on the team with us and helping us through this process. So because it has a very tight timeline, we actually have to have all of our federal funds obligated by next year, which is extremely short in federal project timelines. So the Agency of Transportation, as both a sister and reviewer and landowner in this project, has really stepped up to be a great partner on this project. And then we have subcontracted with VHB and a large team of sub-consultants to carry out the design portion of the project. We had the scoping studies with CCRPC, which really told us where the project would be, and that enabled us to go and seek federal funding for this project. So this is the alignment, and the south side was chosen. What is, I think all of us, when we started thinking about this, we're like, okay, it's going to go straight over along the Wilson Road alignment. It doesn't. There are several reasons for that. But really the ramps to get over the interstate between the bridge deck and the clearance required for trucks, it's about 30 feet. And so you need a very long ramp to get there at ADA grade. I'm sorry, was there a question?
I was just wondering where the overpass was. Now, as you get off the ramp, this is coming from Montpelier on the getting off, right?
Yes, this is as if you're going towards Montpelier. And I have a bigger page. So this is a bigger view of it. So the Staples Plaza is on the left side of your screen, and the CVS Comfort Inn Homewood Suites is on the right side of your screen, with the University Mall just to the south, on the southeast side. So the on-ramp is towards Montpelier, and then the off-ramp is from Montpelier. Correct.
Walkway, right?
It'll be
Just a walkway.
That's-
Right. It'll just be for pedestrians and bicyclists. And so because of that, it has to be at a very low grade. So it's at about maximum 4.5%, which is
Is that
still.
where our state police barracks is going to be up here, right?
No, that's not Williston.
No.
This is South Burlington.
This is South
Oh,
Burlington.
South Burlington, okay.
So you got the University Mall right here,
Okay.
and that's the old Sheridan, and this is Staples. So it's the University Mall, and UVM's right here, Gutterson's right here, athletic campus. So there's a large population of student housing. This is all student housing now too. And just getting over to here is really difficult and intimidating. It's like a war zone trying to cross and walk along. Quarry Hill, this is Quarry Hill. Yep. This
Yeah,
is the
so
University Mall.
Yeah, and as Senator Chittenden said, this has been identified as a huge barrier to walking and biking in our region. So because Burlington is on the west side, and some of South Burlington is on the west side too, and then city center for South Burlington is on the east side, or the bulk of it, the University Mall, a lot of housing, a lot of planned housing, and a lot of jobs. And many of the jobs are in retail, grocery stores, and then many medical offices. And plus, so getting people across this bridge to jobs, to shopping, to medical care has been a significant challenge unless you're driving. And when you're driving, it is our biggest intersection in terms of volume. And that means that at certain times of the day, it can be very slow to get across. So really, this project increases capacity and increases safety, because currently, if you are walking or biking across, you have to cross several uncontrolled on-ramps and off-ramps for the interstate. And then there's also weaving traffic. And then in the winter, there's no place for snow. There's a lot of slush and rain spatter. So it becomes very, not very viable.
We have a question from one of the.
I was just gonna ask Senator Chittenden, because you know that culture better than I, are they gonna walk that distance?
I think they are. So in the exhaustive process that Lana was just speaking to, if I may speak to this, Lana, I hope this doesn't tell me if I say anything wrong. They looked at 4 different configurations, or even 5. I think they were talking even about, what do they call a gondola? So that was in the mix, but they were looking at raising a walk path across to here, to expanding this. And they did a very extensive analysis. And this is very pedestrian oriented, that people like to bike all this. And the key thing is, much as this cuts up to the left, what isn't part of this, I know it's on YouTube right now, but there's a new owner of the University Mall. This is the University Mall and Marketplaces over here. So this is a huge pedestrian draw. So as much as they might go back up to Williston Road, the big draw for a lot of the concentrated housing where people want to go is all right here. So this shows that it's going to jaunt up here, but it is still part of, and Lana, if you want to speak to this, I definitely want to hear how much this is going to connect and feed into where people are really going to want to go, which is all of this right here.
So they're gonna have the right, the mall owners and the other shop, whoever the powers it will be, will have a right to deviate off of that trail.
That's
to-
to be determined.
Okay.
Right, so as part of the development of this process, we have had a lot of conversations with the property owners. And by and large, they are extremely supportive of this project. And in fact, they wrote letters of support during our application process for the federal grant. And so So there will be a connection very close to this green circle, which is at the north end of the University Mall property, where the bridge will, and it's different from what I'll show you, but I'll show you that. But the bridge will connect back to the University Mall property, which is this is right here under where it says connection to University Mall is where the University Mall is. And that connection will provide a more direct route both to the University Mall and we do expect to see development happen.
It was demoed and now it's a CVS at the front and a hotel complex.
And that's the road that goes down there to the right of University Mall.
Correct. Dorset Street. I live on this street. I live about
Okay,
3 miles down there. Lana, they were just asking where the old Howard Johnson's was, so I was just explaining.
Right. We talk about that a lot. And that's where the CVS is. I grew up going there and getting ice cream. So and then the other big development that is occurring is Catamount Run, which is on the other side of Dorset and just 1 block down from this. And then 2 blocks over is Catamount Run, which is the Snyder-Braverman development, but which has investment from UVM. And so when UVM issued a press release about their investment in this new housing, I believe it's 275 units of housing, they specifically called out this bridge as connecting this new housing that would have priority for graduate students and staff and being connected to UVM itself. And so this creates that ability for folks that are living, 3 blocks or 4 blocks from the bridge to.
But you don't have to cross traffic when you're walking across the bridge, right?
Right, exactly. And UVM Medical Center has also invested into buildings that are located, and that are, one of them is almost completely constructed and the other one just broke ground last fall.
Sorry, what was
Any
it?
state money, or is this a federal grant directly to
I think
the?
it's all federal, local money. Yeah. It was local.
How much
For this,
Yolanda, what's the funding? Who's supplying? How much?
we're getting there.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so it's actually that next question. So, so we have a US DOT grant, which is for 9.8 million. That's 67% of the funding. We have TIF district financing that is currently on the city March town meeting ballot. And the question is for 4.7 million, and that is 30% of the budget. And then we will be seeking other funding in approximately $500,000. And then we also we'll either be using reserve funding or ideally we will receive a grant for that additional funding. So the total project budget is $14,550,000. We will most likely be looking for additional funding. We have been going through a value engineering process in between when we received our grant and when we completed the concept. We redid our cost estimate as you would normally do at the concept stage, and things like steel had doubled in price. So there's a lot of flex in the in pricing at the moment, and we aren't at the opinion of cost level, but we are anticipating that we will be looking for additional funding as the project progresses. But it would be minimal in terms of the overall budget, which is still, it's a big investment. It's a big project and it is a huge change for the region. So our concept, as I said, is in progress. And the concept generally was approved by the council. This is actually, I just threw together some slides to show you. So this is where we are. We've actually completed the general concept. We're just fine tuning it, as I said, to bring the costs down. We did present to the council and they did approve the concept. The district financing is on the ballot, and then we are developing the conceptual plans at the moment. So this project, as I stated, is on an extraordinarily tight timeline, and anyone who's ever worked on a federal grant funded transportation project will know this. For example, Market Street, we received our initial grant funding in 2004, 2005. And then the second grant funding in 2008, that was a federal earmark back when in the first era of earmarks. And the actual street was built in 2018. So we were required to go through many processes in order to actually build the street, including an environmental assessment. So this is very, very fast for a project, partially because it is somewhat straightforward and not as complicated as other projects, although it is a big project. So we will be in design through June of 2024. And then we will, once we have permission from FHWA, the project will go to bid, and our plan construction is 25-26. Sorry?
Lana, there was a question, why not a tunnel? Of all the 5 designs, that was not an option that I saw presented. The gondola
Yeah.
was being considered seriously for a while, but
I think because of pricing. So as expensive as this was, that was seen as even more expensive.
The last tunnel we put up down the road a little bit, boy, that went through a hassle. We did that tunnel to get back down. We never do it today.
yeah, the tunnel for UVM is
Yeah,
up the street from
yeah,
here, so it's
yeah.
very close. This is a connection away to that.
Now, will you be able to still walk both paths, or you're gonna shut the other one off? You can't go on the other one.
No, that will still be an option for people who choose to do that.
So it's not gonna stop. So
No,
isn't
no.
that,
So and for people who are walking, there are times of the year where it may be more, depending on where they're going, it may be more convenient. For people who are biking, it's certainly much more awkward to stop and look because the directions that you have to look and pay attention to. And then there are certain streets where it's less, as there's certain sides of the road, like if you're on the north side, there's one of the intersections where you have to look in 3 directions at once because traffic could be coming from any of the 3 directions. And you don't know which direction the signal is green in that's coming at you. So there's places where there are huge advantages over this. The other to put this in context, the city also has TIF district financing and a federal grant for a shared use path on Williston Road on the south side between Dorset and Al's French Fries. And then between Al's French Fries and Heinsberg Road, there will be a shared use path on a different TIF district finance project on the south side also. So we are starting to encourage the south side of the road to be more of a shared use path off street the entire way for walking and biking.
okay, questions?
You want to see the visualization? You're going to show that, Lana, what it's going to look like?
Yes. So we had an extensive community engagement process for this. One of the important pieces, I think, for us and for U.S. Department of Transportation was to include the end users. And so we did our normal public workshops, but we also had specific outreach groups. We hired Peace and Justice and Whole Heart to do direct outreach to communities that we don't normally hear from. So we had meetings with hotel workers. We had meetings with the local Islamic Society after one of their, I think they put out a call and I think they had like 40 attendees come. Much less traditional outreach than we normally do. These photos are from the normal outreach. We had great participation and comments from the public that really advised the selection of the final concept. So these were the 3 concepts that people weighed in on. They're all very different. This being Vermont, people who are very attracted to the greenery. And they also recognize that this area can be very windy, so they also like the walls. There are a few people who really liked the truss style bridge, but not so many. So that one went off the table really fast, and we ended up with more of a combination between greenery and a shelter. Remembering we're about 30 feet up in the air, and then the traffic also creates its own wind. So it can be a very windy location. So some of the things that the community has been pushing in this project through the TIF district and through the vision and comprehensive plan for the city is that this be a bridge that attracts people to use it, but also that it is a part of our placemaking for the community and helps to establish South Burlington as a distinct community within our region. And of course, we're very committed to environmental sustainability. And this is part of our downtown development plan.
Okay.
So I think all of this, it does have public art. It's important that it be ADA accessible so that there are places that people will be able to sit on it and rest if they need to. And of course, we have a lot of environmental concerns that are built into the design process. So this shows the alignment. It's very much paying attention to how people on bikes navigate, and so the curves are very responsive to bicyclists. The exception would be that there will be a connection. I don't know if you can see my arrow. I'm guessing not.
You can.
Oh, you can. Okay, great. Yeah, so the curves are very very rounded, and then there's an intersection that will go to the University Mall, and we also expect an intersection at this corner that would connect to the Quarry Hill community. There's a lot of high density housing just to the south of this area, and you can see some of the buildings right here. These are 4-story buildings, as well as a senior living and assisted care center. And then these properties here, the Staples Plaza and then a property here have, they all are zoned for 4-story or 5-story buildings. So at some point in the future, they could redevelop. So as you can see, the pathway connects to the Staples, will connect to Quarry Hill over the bridge. And at this point, we're at 30 feet in the air. And then the path is shown here, but when we value engineered it, we're bringing the spur back so that we can sort of take advantage of not having to build as many walls and reconnect to the University Mall here so that people will have a choice to either go straight through to Dorset Street, or if and as the University Mall redevelops, to go to points further south within the mall. And that there is a back entrance to the mall also. People are going in the way it's currently configured. And then there's the area on Dorset Street is very limited sidewalk. It's a very blind corner. So we're also addressing that corner and then reconnecting to Dorset Street, which has shared use paths on both sides of it. And I would, as we're looking at this, we are working to scope future connections. So our Regional Planning Commission currently has an ongoing project to look at the wider context and make sure that we have the best connections to UVM, to UVM Medical Center, to neighborhoods to the south, and then also across the University Mall. So as they redevelop, we know already how we want people to cross those sites. And so we're planning ahead and ensuring that when this bridge comes into place, we also have any regulations or smaller projects to support its success. So this is the bridge concept. I will say that we are holding to this concept through the value engineering, but we are moving this connection back closer to the trees, and then it would come out right here as opposed to here. This piece alone was $2 million and it was not the investment was not worth the outcome, so. But generally, we are looking for a bridge that is iconic and that people can recognize from the outside, but also so that when people see it and they think, oh, maybe I'll walk over there, it's inviting and that they want to make that effort and feel comfortable doing it. And also that it's a place that people feel comfortable at night as well as during the day and in the winter as well as in the summer.
Lana, if I could just jump in, that last visual is really what I had in mind and why I raised it a couple of weeks ago. And I thought this committee would want to see it. This is going to be a defining characteristic for everybody coming from Boston, Connecticut, Rhode Island. They're going to be coming up 89 to the Queen City of Burlington. And this is like what they're going to see when they're finally at their destination. of
No, not
Burlington.
unless they divert to the Northeast Kingdom.
I said when they go to the
Yes.
Queen City. I said the
Oh.
Queen City, the Queen City. When they're drawn to
You
you.
want to see.
I think that's gonna draw to the area.
No, I'm just saying they're going to see it. It's going to be a defining,
I hope so.
iconic, she used the word
You're
iconic.
gonna put your brick in Denville.
I think what this shows though, when the interstates were built, and you look at what it did to the city of Boston, where they actually put these, and what it's done is just, bisect these neighborhoods, and it becomes of course, they did a tunnel, that's why I was wondering. But,
Just do a lot.
They tunneled the cars.
Yeah.
Could have done that, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice walkway across.
that's right, why don't we tunnel the cars?
I want to recognize that one of the city councilors, the best city councilor I've ever served with, has entered the room too. So if you guys have any thoughts to chime in on this too.
Oh,
You have anything to do with UVM too, or?
yeah,
Okay.
thank God.
What is the red coming from? Is that just like woven into?
Yeah, so that's something that we are still figuring out, is what that material will be, whether it's aluminum that's, hot dipped, whether it's enameled steel, whether it's a fiberglass that has color, like UV protected color in it. So we're not sure yet what it is. And so in some ways, the design that you'll see is a placeholder. So it tells us what the shape and the impact will be, but not necessarily what the material is.
Well, it certainly need to have something, it's reminiscent of the discussion we had around the bridge over Quechee Gorge, and it became a very attractive place for actually suicides, and so at 30 feet in the air onto a highway, and trucks, or trucks or pumpkins or whatever, so that's gonna be important.
No, and that has definitely been a big part of our discussion.
Oh, that's a
This-
good.
Yeah, so this is sort of what you would see from, on the on-ramp, although this is actually the off-ramp.
Yeah, better idea.
Turn this off.
I'm surprised it's not green and gold.
I'd support green and gold, but this is good for the next council, I guess.
So the architect for this project really was inspired by all the red barns in the winter, which was just an interesting observation, and just making sure that it stood out against whatever the background was. So this is a view on the bridge. Right now, the perforations are circles. One of the comments that we did receive from the community was they wanted to be able to look out without having to look out holes with be able to look out the same hole when you're looking out. So we all have two eyes. We need the holes big enough so that we can look out the holes without being looking out multiple holes. So that pattern will probably go through some alterations. The other thing is that as through the value engineering, we will have greenery, but the bridge this concept is very wide. And so we have made it narrower. So the pathway is generally 14 feet, but and it will widen to 22 feet on the bridge. This concept is showing a 30-foot width, which is really wide.
Yeah.
And it almost becomes like a plaza on the bridge. But because it was so expensive, we asked the the consultants to bring it down as part of our value engineering. So there will still be room for greenery, not as much of a gathering space.
Look at it.
Just,
Mhm.
yeah. So most, just for perspective, most recreation paths are about 8 to 10 feet. I think the standard is now 10 feet. So if you've been on a newer path, it's 10 feet. We have 14 feet because that gives you some shy area for your railings if you're biking. And then it would widen, be a little bit wider on the bridge as you go around the curve. And that gives you a place to stop and look out, and also place for some landscaping in the summertime.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Anything-
welcome.
Anything from you? No?
Along covered it pretty well.
Okay, well, that's
Thank
a
you.
good overview, and I thank you for coming this morning, and look forward to it. Thank you.
Anything for me?
No, I guess any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Next time, try not to talk so much.
You need to. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Oh, does Amtrak?
Right, the,
Thank you, Lana. That was great.
Yeah, thank you.
thank you.
So we got a couple minutes here to wait for Amtrak.
Yeah, 15 minutes.